we need to talk about science. For example, about faith in relationship to faith. Faith is a function to understanding juxtaposed. What I from juxtaposed with faith is a function to understanding, juxtaposed not only with natural um, barriers to perception, to into experience, to the body of consciousness which understands. But it's also juxtaposed with pseudo education. For example, in relationship to this nation's founding, with summary convictions related to American history. For example, with regards to the treatments of James Madison, he was the founder of our country who sat as the first justice. George Washington was his chief justice. They were all forced, counter extorted against terror laws. We must understand terror laws, like slavery, like witch trials, and like slavery of tactically of key Native American figures, like a vicious psychopath in control of everything. Beyond colonization and before the Dark Ages, an organized crime. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police. Per a law dictionary, a criminal enterprise is basically, per my understanding, a nature of consciousness, a negative value nature of consciousness, a temporary nature of consciousness. For my faith, consciousness that is temporary value nature was before it was and will be after it is forever value nature in relationship to quality, in relationship to the body it was before it was in our material possession, and after it's in our material, it'll still be in our metaphysical possession. This is what ancient sciences demonstrably taught that revealed English. So with every criminal enterprise are affected phenomena of semi-criminal insidiousness in relationship to its own overall insidiousness natures, like a criminal enterprise. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm speaking about faith and religion. For example, because religions ran damage control demonstrably from campus, leveraged pseudo-education and organized crime, internation, fornication, even of a nature in relationship to and as kings and queens, extortion, even of pharaohs. By the way, my theory is that Egypt is in northern Africa, on the western side of it, or the eastern side of it, and that whole northern Africa is desert. The reason it's desert is because in ancient times a mountain was dismantled, because every mountain forces wind to lift and drop moisture that would normally, and then it's got soil, and this moisture reaches a saturation point, and all these phenomena pull the top of the mountain freezes. All these phenomena pull moisture down, and every mountain creates rivers. And so the dismantling of this mountain dismantled with what these religious books are saying was paradise. In other words, the nature of every nation, unrealized, it was denatured, was tactically forced to a nature, per nature of organized crime, a criminal enterprise that had the agenda of tactically causing the landscapes of the world denatured for other causations and relying upon other means to account for that, to overcome that. In other words, we were forced to shared markets positions and founding. We were forced to summary convictions of American history that are reliant upon words of our founders in summary convictions that they wouldn't say had they had free speech completely. They just announced they wanted it. Robert Frost lived 1874 through 1963. 66 years before that, James Madison first took office, the first justice of this nation in 1808. 16 years after that, after his first year in office, James Madison, only 66 years after that, James Madison was born. The Revolutionary War had been fought, and Robert Frost was born in 1874, only 9 years after the Civil War, and he died in 1963. So you see, and he was born 9 years before the Civil War and 66 years before James Madison first took office. And so we see we haven't had books. I haven't seen them. And all the summaries I see of American history, they don't deal with it. For example, James Madison left Marbury versus Madison with the law. I'm not a lawyer. Again, I'm not a police officer. I'm speaking about legal nature because these religious books are about organized crime that they did damage control from. Note that now, the Dark Ages were 500 to 1000 AD. This is because of campus organized crime and criminal re-engineering. Note that and how Islam ran damage control from it. Note the beginning of the Quran, noting bonds between consciousness and trying to have a conversation about something about demonstrably about complex litigation, about criminal enterprise, and about the nature of organized crime, commonly upon the messenger of the Old Testament and upon the messenger of Islam. There are proofs that the Old Testament is talking about ancient sciences, because they had no criminal persuasions, they were revealed to a common task, and it was this is an active task dealing with the nature of consciousness and of nature inherent to the nature of consciousness. And originally, the ancients had the phenomenon of internation criminal enterprise contained. And what an archetypal criminal enterprise did, this by my faith. An archetypal criminal enterprise tricked the world, denatured, and reliant upon legalized criminalized enterprises to overcome this. Forced criminal position. Our nation, we lost. These proofs. It's undeniable proofs that we lost on many fronts in the American Revolution. Slavery is proof of that. That we've never had the organized crime associated with slavery attributed to it, and that we've had it blamed on other things. We must understand the nature of organized crime with this, because this is what employed the world. In other words, it employs Americans to the defense of linguistic positions that are self-defeating. We have breaching nature positions through the world shared in relationship to a means to affect the evidence fabrications through time, not just with terror laws. Those terror laws from colonization, they were affected knowing that they wouldn't be able to hold on through time, but they were cultivating natures of business and mass reliant upon language of the law that is self-defeating to the nature of the overall law overall, and it is only self-justifiable related to business lies and business delusions. In other words, you can't defend slavery, Native American rights damages, even this is why they're still accumulating. This is when trees drop leaves. Trees are dropping leaves because they're fertilized in the store. How many years have we raked the leaves up? We've denatured the soil. Though that's how the tree not just fertilizes itself. This is how it works with the system, the earth. In other words, then we have industries working the plants. Thank God, but now they're in defensive in nature, working with soil as is. So they're going to use chemical fertilizers and stuff like that. And the living organisms with the soil and stuff like that, that stays gone. It stays forsaken because we're defending a business. We're not defending the constitutional rights of the soils. You know what I'm saying? We're not defending the constitutional rights of the waters. This is what the Native Americans are talking about. They said we must read each other's dreams.